Have you ever looked at someone and felt like the future paused for a second, just long enough to ask you a dangerous question? I'm asking you that because the first time I thought, can I be your future husband? It didn't feel romantic. It felt terrifying. It felt like standing at the edge of something massive, knowing one step forward could change everything I've built, everything my family believes about me, everything you might believe about me too. I'm talking to you right now the way I wish I could have that night. No rehearsed lines, no armor, no clever distractions, just me sitting across from you wondering if you see what I see when I look at myself. Do you see husband material, or just a man who's always chasing something bigger than himself? People think confidence means certainty. It doesn't. Real confidence is walking straight into your doubts and not flinching. And I have doubts about love, about timing, about whether a man like me, restless, obsessed, always mentally elsewhere, has the right to ask you to imagine a life with him. Do you ever wonder what it would be like to wake up next to someone who's already planning the next 10 years before breakfast? Someone whose mind never really sleeps. Would that excite you or exhaust you? Because my mother worries about that. She always has. She doesn't say it directly. She never needs to. It's in the way she watches me when I talk about you. Her eyes narrow slightly like she's measuring the distance between your heart and the chaos she knows lives inside mine. She's protected me my entire life, and now she's asking herself if I'm about to become the danger instead of the sun. She asked me once quietly, does she know what she's signing up for? That question hit harder than any rejection ever could because what do you sign up for when you love someone like me? Late nights where I'm physically there but mentally galaxies away. Conversations interrupted by ideas I can't turn off. A life that's stable one minute and completely upside down the next. I wanted to tell her she's stronger than you think. But the truth is, I don't know if strength should even be a requirement for love. Should love demand endurance? When I think about you, I don't think about perfection. I think about moments. The way your voice drops when you're tired, the way you look away when you're hurt but don't want to admit it, the silence between us that feels heavier than words. Do you feel that silence too? Or is it just me projecting everything I'm afraid to say? I keep asking myself, if I stand in front of you and say, judge me, tell me if I'm husband material, what would you see? A man who's been married to his work longer than he's ever been to a person. A man who loves deeply but expresses it awkwardly, sometimes too late. A man whose idea of stability looks nothing like the traditional picture your family might expect. Your family? I've thought about them more than you realize. Your mother would probably study me the same way mine studies you. Protective, suspicious, quietly fierce. She'd ask herself if I'd keep you safe, if I'd show up when it matters, if I'd choose you when the world demands my attention. And the honest answer, I want to. But wanting isn't the same as proving. That's the part no one prepares you for. Love isn't just emotion. It's a trial, a constant evaluation. Every action becomes evidence. Every absence becomes an accusation. Have you ever loved someone and still felt like you were on probation? That's how I feel with you. Like every heartbeat is whispering, don't mess this up. I replay our conversations in my head, searching for cracks. Did I talk too much? Did I pull away when you needed reassurance? Did you notice the moment I almost said something real and then swallowed it because I almost said it that night? The words sat right there. Can I be your future husband? Burning a hole in my chest. But I thought about my mother's face if this went wrong. I thought about your tears if I failed you. I thought about the kind of heartbreak that doesn't scream, just quietly rearranges your life. And I stayed silent. Do you know how heavy silence can get? It follows you home. It sits next to you at dinner. It stares at you in the dark when sleep refuses to come. Silence asks questions you can't outrun, like, what if you're waiting for me to be brave? And I'm waiting for proof that I won. T destroys something beautiful. I don't need you to see me as flawless. I need you to see me as honest, as someone willing to stand in front of you without titles, without success, without excuses, and ask for a future that scares him. Because loving you scares me. Not because I don't want it, but because I do. And if I'm going to ask you whether I'm husband material, I need to be ready for the answer. Even if it breaks me, even if my mother sighs and says she knew this would hurt, even if I have to learn what it means to love without guarantees. So tell me, when you look at me, do you see a man who could stand beside you when things get hard, or do you see someone who might disappear into his own mind when you need him most? I'm right here asking you, not with confidence, but with truth. Have you ever noticed how the hardest conversations don't start with words, they start with a look? Because that's how it happened between us. You didn't say anything at first. You just looked at me like you were trying to read something behind my eyes that I hadn't learned how to say out loud yet. And in that moment, I realized something uncomfortable. You already knew this wasn't casual for me. You felt the weight I was carrying before I ever admitted it. Do you remember that pause? That silence wasn't empty. It was crowded with questions, yours and mine colliding in the same space. I wanted to ask you everything at once. I wanted to know if you'd ever pictured me older, slower, less restless. If you could imagine my chaos blending with your calm, or your chaos amplifying mine. I wanted to know if love for you meant safety or adventure or sacrifice. Instead, I asked something smaller, safer. How do you see us? And even as the words left my mouth, I hated myself for how carefully I phrased it because I wasn't really asking about us. I was asking if you were already halfway out the door. Your answer didn't come right away. You took a breath, a real one, the kind people take when they're about to be honest instead of polite. And that terrified me more than any rejection could have. You said you felt something real. You said you didn't want to pretend this was light when it wasn't. But then your voice changed just slightly when you mentioned your mother. Isn't it strange how mothers live inside our love stories, whether we invite them or not? You told me she worries that she asks questions late at night when the house is quiet and fear gets louder. She wants to know if I'd be present, if I'd choose you when choosing you meant disappointing other ambitions, if I'd love you in a way that didn't require you to compete with my dreams. I didn't interrupt you. I didn't defend myself. I just listened. Because the truth is, she wasn't wrong to worry. My own mother raised me to question everything, systems, rules, even myself. She taught me to chase ideas relentlessly, but she also taught me that love is the one thing you don't experiment on carelessly. When I told her about why, really told her, she went quiet, not cold, thoughtful. That's worse. She asked me if I was ready to slow down for someone else's heart. I laughed at first, not because it was funny, but because I didn't know how to answer. Slow down? What does that even mean to someone whose mind moves faster than his life can keep up with? But then she said something that stuck with me. She said, love doesn't ask you to stop being who you are. It asks you who you're willing to become accountable to. Accountable. That word has been echoing in my head ever since. Because being your future husband wouldn't just mean loving you when it's easy. It would mean being accountable for your trust, your time, your vulnerability. It would mean that when you're hurt, I don't get to disappear into work or ideas or silence. And I'm not proud to admit this, but disappearing has always been my defense mechanism. Have you ever noticed that about me? When things get emotionally complicated, I get intellectually busy. I solve problems instead of sitting with pain. I optimize when I should be present, and I know that scares you. You asked me once gently, if I need you, will you really be there, or will I have to wait until you're done saving the world? That question cut deep, because I don't want you to feel like a side project. I don't want you to feel like you're borrowing pieces of me between commitments. I want you to feel chosen intentionally, consistently, without negotiation. But wanting that and being that are two different things, and you sensed that gap. That's when the distance started. Not dramatic, not loud, just a subtle shift. Messages that took a little longer, touches that hesitated, a feeling that something important was being weighed, measured, maybe even judged. Judge me, am I husband material? That question isn't romantic when you really mean it. It's vulnerable. It puts you in a position where love isn't guaranteed, where affection has terms, where potential isn't enough. And the hardest part, I couldn't tell if you were pulling away to protect yourself or waiting for me to step forward. My mother noticed it too. Mothers always do. She asked why I seemed distracted in a different way than usual. Not excited, distracted, heavy, distracted. I told her I was afraid of hurting someone I cared about. She said, then decide whether you're ready to be the man who stays when it gets uncomfortable. Stays. Such a simple word, such a massive responsibility. I started imagining moments we hadn't even lived yet. Arguments that would test us. Quiet nights where one of us feels unseen. Choices where only one of us can win. I imagined you standing there asking yourself if loving me was worth the emotional cost. And I hated that you might ever feel alone next to me. So I pulled back, not because I cared less, but because I cared too much without knowing how to prove it. Do you see the contradiction? I didn't want to promise something I wasn't sure I could deliver, but B, why hesitating, I might have already broken something fragile. That's the kind of heartbreak no one warns you about. The kind that comes from caution, not cruelty. I still replay your face the last time we talked before the silence grew teeth. The way you nodded like you understood but didn't feel chosen. The way you smiled but your eyes asked a question you were tired of asking. Are you in this or just thinking about it? I don't know if you realize how close I was to calling you that night. How close I was to saying everything messy, imperfect, unfinished. To telling you that being your future husband scares me because it matters more than anything else. I didn't call. And now I'm standing here talking to you like this, wondering if you can still hear me through the distance. Tell me, if I step forward now, without certainty, but with intention, would you meet me there? Or have you already started building walls to survive the disappointment? I need to know. Have you ever felt the moment when love stops being loud and starts being heavy? That's where we are now. Not arguing, not confessing, just standing on opposite sides of something fragile, both pretending we're fine while quietly preparing for impact. I feel it in the way your voice sounds more careful. I see it in how you listen now. Not to understand, but to protect yourself. And I don't blame you because from your side it probably looks like hesitation, like uncertainty, like a man who can't decide if he wants a future or just the idea of one. But from inside my head it feels like standing in a room full of open doors, knowing that once I walk through one, I don't get to pretend the others don't exist. Do you know how many times my mother has asked me if I've called you? She doesn't push. She never pushes. She just asks softly in a way that tells me she already knows the answer. And every time I say no, I feel like I'm disappointing more than one woman at once. She sat across from me one evening, watching me stare at nothing. Then she said, "You're not afraid of losing her. You're afraid of becoming the man who hurts her." She knows me too well because that's the truth I've been circling around without touching. I don't fear rejection. I fear responsibility. I fear the kind that doesn't come with applause or recognition. The kind that shows up at 2 a.m. when you're crying for reasons you don't fully understand. And the only thing that matters is whether I stay present instead of retreating into logic. Can you imagine trusting someone like that? Can you imagine trusting me like that? I think about your mother sometimes. How she'd look at me if she knew how close I was to either stepping up or stepping away. She'd probably smile politely, but her instincts would be loud. Mothers don't need evidence, they feel risk. And right now, I am risk. That realization hit me harder than anything else. Not that I might fail, but that loving me might feel like gambling with your emotional safety. That's when the word husband started to mean something different. Not romance, not ceremony, not even permanence, accountability. Being your future husband wouldn't be about grand gestures. It would be about answering when you call, even when I'm overwhelmed. It would be about choosing clarity over comfort, about letting you see my uncertainty instead of hiding behind intelligence or ambition. And here's the part I haven't said out loud yet. I don't know if I've ever let someone see me that exposed. Have you ever noticed how easy it is for me to talk about ideas, but how hard it is for me to talk about fear? I can explain systems, plans, futures, but explaining what you mean to me, that's harder, because once I say it, I can't take it back. Once I admit how deeply you matter, I lose the ability to pretend I'm unaffected by the outcome. And maybe you've already felt that imbalance. Maybe you've already given me more emotional access than I've earned. If that's true, I'm sorry. There was a night recently, late, quiet, when I almost showed up at your door. No speech, no strategy, just the truth, raw and unfiltered. I imagined your face when you opened it, surprise mixed with caution, hope fighting with self-respect. And I imagined your mother's voice in your head, asking if this was another almost. So I didn't go. Instead, I sat with my thoughts, asking myself a question I've avoided my entire life. What does it cost to stay? Not to chase, not to build, not to win, to stay. Staying means being seen. It means being judged not by potential but by consistency. It means that if I ask you to imagine me as your future husband, I don't get to hide when reality tests that image. That's terrifying. But losing you quietly without ever trying honestly might be worse. I think you feel the shift too. The moment where something has to give, where silence stops being neutral and starts being an answer. And I know you're watching me, even if you're not saying it, wondering which version of me is going to show up. The man who overthinks until the moment passes, or the man who steps forward even when he's not fully ready. My mother asked me one last question before she let the topic drop. She said, "If she walks away, will you be relieved or will you regret not choosing sooner?" I didn't answer right away because the answer scared me. I wouldn't be relieved. I'd be functional, productive, distracted. But underneath all that, I'd carry the quiet knowledge that I let fear make the decision for me. And you deserve more than that. You deserve to be chosen with intention, not convenience. You deserve a man who doesn't ask you to wait while he figures himself out in silence. So here I am standing closer to the edge than ever before, talking to you like this because I need you to know something, even if I haven't proven it yet. I'm not asking you to guarantee anything. I'm asking you to see me trying to become accountable to your heart, and I need to know. Are you still listening? Or have you already start letting go because it hurts less than hoping? What would you do if I reached for you now? Not perfectly, not confidently, but honestly. Have you ever noticed how the most important moments don't announce themselves? They don't come with music or certainty or a clear signal that says, this is it. They arrive quietly, disguised as ordinary seconds, waiting to see if you'll recognize them before they pass. This feels like one of those moments. I can sense it in the way everything around us has slowed down. Not because life is calm, but because something inside me has stopped running. For the first time in a long time, my mind isn't racing ahead to the next idea, the next problem, the next future. It's right here with you, with this question that won't let go. Can I be your future husband? Not as a fantasy, not as a promise wrapped in romance, but as a man standing in front of you, exposed enough to be judged. Judge me not by what I might become someday. Judge me by what I'm choosing right now. My mother saw the change before I did. She always does. She noticed the way I started leaving my phone face up like I was waiting for something. The way my focus drifted not to work, not to plans, but to a person, to you. She asked me if I was ready to speak instead of think. I told her I was tired of losing things quietly. She nodded. No lecture, no warning, just that look mothers give when they know a lesson has finally landed, she said. And don't ask her to be brave alone. That stayed with me because courage and love isn't about bold declarations. It's about showing up before you're forced to. It's about choosing the conversation that scares you more than the silence. And silence has already taken enough from us. So I imagine you now, really imagine you. Not idealized, not frozen in a perfect moment, but real with your doubts, your boundaries, your history, your mother's voice in your head, reminding you not to settle for uncertainty, dressed up as depth. I imagine you asking yourself if this is the moment where hope becomes risk again. And I want to answer that honestly. I won't tell you I'm easy to love. I won't tell you I have everything figured out. I won't tell you that life with me would be smooth or predictable. What I will tell you is this. I'm done hiding behind potential. If I ask to be your future husband, it's because I'm willing to let you see me when I'm wrong, when I'm tired, when I don't have solutions, when all I can offer is presence instead of progress. That's a different kind of commitment than I've ever made. There's a moment I keep replaying in my head. You probably don't even know it mattered this much to me. You were talking, explaining something important to you, and I interrupted absent-mindedly, unintentionally. You stopped, looked at me, not angry, just disappointed. You didn't raise your voice, you didn't accuse, you just went quiet. That silence told me more about love than any argument ever could. It told me that being husband material isn't about intensity, it's about attention. And I've been learning slowly, imperfectly, how to give that. Your mother would still have questions. She should. Any woman who loves her childhood, she'd want to know if I'm capable of consistency, if I can prioritize a relationship without making it feel like a negotiation, if I'll protect your heart when it's inconvenient for me. I don't expect her trust overnight. I'd earn it the only way that matters, by staying, by not disappearing when things feel complicated, by not intellectualizing your emotions, by not making you feel like you're asking for too much when you ask for presence. That's the standard I'm holding myself to now. And maybe you're wondering why I didn't get here sooner. The truth, I thought love had to fit into my life instead of reshape it. I thought commitment would slow me down. I didn't realize it could anchor me. You do that, you don't demand that I be smaller. You make me want to be clearer. There's a difference. So if you're waiting for a dramatic proposal, this isn't it. This is quieter, more dangerous, more real. This is me saying, I see the weight of what I'm asking. I see the risk you'd take by choosing me. And I'm not asking you to ignore your instincts or your family or your fears. I'm asking you to look at me right now and decide if this version of me is someone you could build with. Not someday, not hypothetically now. Because if you say yes, even tentatively, I won't treat it lightly. And if you say no, I'll respect that too. But I won't pretend I didn't want this with everything I had. Tell me, when you imagine your future, is there room for a man who's still learning how to stay but is choosing to learn for you? I'm here. I'm not running. I'm not hiding. I'm asking. Have you ever noticed how answers don't always arrive as words? Sometimes they arrive as a feeling in your chest, a quiet yes, a hesitant maybe, or a gentle no that still carries respect. Whatever yours is, I feel it now. And I want to speak to you one last time, honestly, without trying to sway you, just to be understood. When I asked, can I be your future husband? I wasn't asking for certainty. I was asking for permission to stand in front of you, without hiding behind who I might become someday. Because love like this doesn't live in guarantees. It lives in choice, and I've made mine. I choose to stop running from the parts of myself that feel unfinished. I choose to stay present when silence would be easier. I choose to let your feelings interrupt my thoughts. I choose to let your heart matter more than my comfort. That doesn't make me perfect. It makes me accountable. My mother asked me something this morning. One last question. She said, she never answers you the way you hope. Will you still be glad you spoke? I didn't hesitate this time. Yes, because loving someone quietly without courage leaves a different kind of scar, and I don't want to carry the weight of almost anymore. If you walk toward me, I'll meet you with honesty, not performance. If you need time, I'll respect it without disappearing. If you decide this isn't right for you, I'll accept it without resentment. But I won't pretend you didn't matter, and if somewhere inside you, you feel that same quiet pull, that sense that this isn't just a story but a mirror, then maybe this question wasn't meant to pressure you. Maybe it was meant to open something. So I'll leave you with this. Not as a demand, not as a promise, but as truth. I'm willing to be judged not by what I've built, but by how I love. I'm willing to be chosen or refused with eyes wide open. I'm willing to stay present even when the future is unclear. Can I be your future husband? If this story spoke to you, if it made you feel something real, something unresolved, something honest, then don't let it disappear into silence. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who understands what it means to love without guarantees. Because sometimes the bravest thing we can do is ask the question out loud.